What truly makes a nation great? Is it simply the laws that bind us, or maybe something far more profound, like a guiding philosophy for progress, intertwined with the collective responsibilities we as citizens must embrace? Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into two incredibly insightful and I think surprisingly often overlooked pillars of India's constitution. We're talking about the directive principles of state policy, you probably know them as DPSPs, and the fundamental duties of its citizens. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to explore not just what the state must do, legally speaking, but what it should strive for. We want to paint a picture of an ideal society, as envisioned in the Constitution. And crucially, we'll try and uncover what you, as a citizen, are called upon to contribute to this national vision. Think of it maybe as the foundational blueprint for a progressive, just, and equitable society. It's a powerful blend, really, of clear aspirations for the government and a sort of moral compass for its people. It's about understanding the constitutional promise and the civic contract that underpins it all.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these two distinct sections, and they are distinct, yet they're deeply interconnected, they articulate a really comprehensive vision for national development. On one side, you have the DPSPs laying out the state's ideals for governance, outlining these aspirational goals for public policy. Then on the other side, the fundamental duties remind citizens of their essential active role in nurturing the national fabric and upholding those very ideals. It's not a one-way street at all. It's more like a dynamic, two-way dialogue between the governed and the government. It acknowledges that a nation's strength comes from both its leadership and the engaged participation of its people. It's a shared effort.
Right, a shared project. Okay, let's start with the state side then. The blueprint for governance, the directive principles. Let's begin by grounding ourselves in what DPSPs actually are and maybe just as importantly, who they apply to. Who is the state here? The Constitution, in Article 36, is remarkably precise about the scope of the state for this Part 4. And it isn't just about the central government in New Delhi, is it?
Not at all. It's a much broader, really all-encompassing definition. It includes the government and parliament of India, sure, but also the government and legislature of each of the individual states. And crucially, it mentions all local or other authorities within India's territory or under the control of the government.
So when we talk about the state here, we're referring to a vast, multi-tiered network of governing bodies, from the national parliament right down to, say, a village municipality, a panchayat.
And that expansive definition is absolutely critical because it means these directives apply right across the board. Every layer of governance, from the highest legislative body to the smallest local council, is implicitly, if not explicitly, meant to be guided by these principles. Now, this brings us to Article 37, which is, well, arguably the most distinctive characteristic of the DPSPs. It states quite clearly that these provisions shall not be enforceable by any court.
Right, and on the surface, that sounds almost like they're just suggestions, like a non-binding wish list or something.
Exactly. That's often the first reaction. But the article immediately follows up. It declares that these principles are nevertheless fundamental in the governance of the country. And, even more strongly, that it shall be the duty of the state to apply these principles in making laws.
That's the paradox, isn't it? The core of their unique nature lies right there. They aren't legally binding in the same way fundamental rights are, where you can, literally go to court if your rights are violated.
Correct.
Instead, DPSPs are presented as moral and constitutional obligations. They represent the very conscience, perhaps, of the Constitution. Think of them less as immediate legal commands and more like...
Well, I liked your earlier analogy, like a government's to-do list, where some items are legally mandated, yes, but others are vital long-term goals to aim for.
That's a good way to put it.
There might not be an immediate legal penalty for missing a deadline on these aspirational items, but they represent the long-term vision, the spirit behind the law. Exactly. And the framers, in their wisdom, they deliberately chose this path of non-enforceability. Why? To allow flexibility. They understood that achieving such far-reaching social and economic transformations, things like universal education or equitable distribution of wealth, well, that would depend heavily on the state's evolving economic capacity. And also on societal development over time.
Right, they couldn't just decree it overnight and expect it to happen without resources or societal readiness.
Precisely. They wanted to set ambitious goals without immediately burdening these fledgling governments with endless legal challenges for not achieving these ideals instantly. Instead, DPSPs serve as this constant reminder, a kind of conscience for the government. They continuously guide policy decisions, legislative actions, and the very direction of national development. Here's a key insight, maybe. Think of DPSPs as the Constitution's moral compass. Not legally enforceable in court, sure, but morally and constitutionally indispensable. They guide the nation towards its ideals, offering a vision for tomorrow, not just rules for today.
So they fundamentally shape the spirit of lawmaking. They influence policies that might directly affect your life, even if you can't sue the government for not, say, achieving perfect equality tomorrow.
Exactly. They are the underlying philosophy of governance.
Okay, so these are the guiding stars, the long-term strategic vision. They tell the state not just what it can do, but what kind of society it should strive to build. They shape its character. With that understanding, what kind of societal transformation do these fundamental principles actually envision? Let's dive into the core mandate for social justice first.
Okay, our deep dive into the specific directives really begins with Article 38, and it's a powerful, remarkably ambitious declaration of intent. It states, quite unequivocally, that the state shall strive to promote the welfare of the people. Full stop. Big statement.
A very broad goal.
Very. But it doesn't stop there. It immediately details how this welfare is to be achieved. It says, by securing and protecting as effectively as it may a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all the institutions of the national life.
Wow. Okay, so inform all the institutions. That's huge.
It is. This isn't just a piecemeal approach, fixing problems here and there. It's a truly comprehensive vision of justice. The aim is for justice to permeate every single aspect of society.
That's profound. It implies that justice isn't merely about legal equality or, fair treatment in court. It's about designing an entire social order, the very structures of society, our economic systems, our political processes, so that justice is intrinsically woven into their fabric.
Yes, exactly.
It's a holistic, almost architectural view. It moves beyond just fixing isolated injustices to fostering a pervasive sense of fairness in everything. For you, the listener, this means the very foundation of your society is constitutionally directed to aim for comprehensive fairness in how resources are distributed, how power is wielded, how opportunities are created.
Absolutely. And the article then takes this even further. It highlights specific targets, which is where its truly proactive and transformative nature becomes really evident. The state shall in particular strive to minimize the inequalities in income.
Right there, explicitly, minimize income inequality.
Yes, a direct, explicit challenge to unbridled economic disparity. A constitutional directive against wealth concentration just sitting there. Furthermore, it says the state shall also endeavor to eliminate inequalities in status, facilities, and opportunities.
Status, facilities, and opportunities. That's broad.
Very broad. And notice this bit. Not only amongst individuals, but also amongst groups of people residing in different areas or engaged in different vocations.
Ah, okay. So it's acknowledging systemic issues, not just person A versus person B, but like urban versus rural or this profession versus that one.
Precisely. That's a critical distinction. It acknowledges that inequality isn't just about individual differences, but about systemic disadvantages faced by entire groups, regions, or professions. What's fascinating here, and maybe a key insight, is that Article 38 isn't just about providing a safety net, catching people when they fall. It's a constitutional call for, almost systemic social engineering in a way, pushing the state to actively dismantle inequalities in status, income, opportunity, striving to weave justice into the very fabric of national life.
So imagine a society where your access to quality healthcare or good education isn't primarily determined by your zip code or your family's bank balance, but is genuinely a given for all citizens. Or where someone's social standing isn't dictated by who their parents were, but by their own merit and contribution. That's the aspiration here.
That's the goal.
You can see how a government genuinely striving for this principle would actively influence decisions about, say, public services, regional development funds, maybe land reform, even progressive taxation policies.
All of those.
It demands a proactive government constantly working to level the playing field, rather than just passively observing existing disparities. It's a call for constant, deliberate action to reshape society.
Precisely. It pushes for active intervention to correct historical and ongoing imbalances, to create a society where inherent worth is valued over inherited privilege. And this broad vision for social justice naturally and quite logically leads us to very specific directives concerning economic policies and the well-being of workers.
Makes sense? After all, economic structures are often the root cause, or at least a major factor, in many social inequalities.
Exactly. So addressing them is fundamental to achieving that pervasive justice we just talked about.
Okay, building on that powerful foundation of social justice, let's turn now to what the Constitution specifically envisages for economic life And these directives are incredibly detailed and, honestly, quite radical for their time, challenging a lot of conventional economic thinking.
They really are. Article 39 lays out several specific policy directives that the state must aim for. First, it mandates securing the right to an adequate means of livelihood for all citizens, men and women, equally.
Equally, right there at the start.
Yeah.
And adequate means of livelihood,
Yeah.
that's not just bare survival, is it?
No, it implies a certain level of dignity and security. This isn't just about charity or unemployment benefits. It's framed as a fundamental, constitutionally directed right to earn a dignified living. Basic economic security for everyone.
Okay. What else in Article 39?
Well, it delves even deeper into the very structure of the economy. It directs that the ownership and control of the material resources of the community.
Material resources,
What?
like land,
Minerals.
industry.
Exactly. Things like land, natural resources, water, minerals industries, accumulated wealth, the fundamental assets that generate prosperity. The directive says these resources should be so distributed as best to subserve the common good.
Common good, not
Yeah.
just individual profit or benefit.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's not just about sharing, it's about structuring the economy so these resources are managed and distributed in a way that truly benefits everyone, not just a privileged few. And critically, it mandates that the operation of the economic system does not result in the concentration of wealth and means of production to the common detriment.
Wow. Okay, that's a direct hit on, well, monopolies or extreme wealth accumulation if it harms society overall.
It's a direct, robust challenge to unchecked capitalism and the accumulation of wealth and power in a few hands. It prioritizes collective well-being over individual gain when there's a conflict.
Here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, quite revolutionary thinking for the time it was written. These aren't just polite suggestions. They are clear, foundational directives for shaping an economic system that truly serves everyone.
Absolutely.
And Article 9 keeps going. It demands equal pay for equal work for both men and women.
Still a major issue globally today.
Absolutely. A principle that, remarkably, many advanced economies are still struggling to fully achieve. It also calls for the protection of the health and strength of workers. Again, men and women and children from abuse. Specifically ensuring citizens are not forced by economic necessity into unsuitable avocations.
That's powerful. It means poverty shouldn't force you into work that's harmful or completely wrong for you.
Exactly. It powerfully underscores the dignity of labor and the inherent vulnerability of the young, explicitly protecting them against exploitation and abandonment, and ensuring children are given opportunities for healthy development in freedom and dignity. It's a really holistic view of human and economic welfare.
The protections extend even further with Article 43. This directs the state to secure for all workers, and it specifies agricultural, industrial, or otherwise.
So everyone who works.
Pretty much. Not just work, but also a living wage.
A living wage. Not just a minimum wage, but a living wage. What's the difference implied there?
It's crucial. A living wage is generally understood as enough to ensure conditions for a decent standard of life. Full enjoyment of leisure, social, and cultural opportunities. It moves beyond mere subsistence, just scraping by.
Okay, so enough to participate fully in life, not just survive.
Exactly. And what's more, Article 43 shows remarkable foresight by encouraging the promotion of cottage industries.
Cottage industries, like small-scale local production.
Yes, essentially small-scale, often home-based businesses producing goods like handicrafts, textiles, or food items, typically using local resources and labor. The directive says promote these on an individual or cooperative basis, especially in rural areas.
That highlights a vision for decentralized economic models, doesn't it? Supporting local self-sufficiency, reducing reliance on big industrial centers.
It does. It values that kind of economic activity.
And then Article 23A takes this even further, into the realm of industrial democracy, really.
Yes, it mandates the state to take steps to secure the participation of workers in the management of undertakings, establishments, or other organizations engaged in any industry.
Worker participation in management. That's a profoundly progressive idea, giving employees a genuine voice in their workplaces.
Very much so.
So for you, the listener, imagine policies that actively prevent monopolies from dominating industries, or ensure a minimum wage allows you to thrive, not just survive, or empower employees with a real say in company decisions. How might these principles influence debates around minimum wage, labor laws, or even antitrust regulations in a country today?
It's about designing an economy with human well-being, equity, and dignity at its very core. It challenges the traditional power structures of capital versus labor, pushing for a more balanced and humane system.
It is, quite simply, a comprehensive vision of economic justice that goes far beyond just looking at GDP growth figures.
Absolutely. It focuses intensely on equity, dignity, and worker empowerment. These directives aim to reshape not just how wealth is generated, but how it's distributed and how work itself contributes to a dignified, fulfilling life for every citizen.
Okay. Beyond these foundational economic structures, the Constitution also delves into the system of justice and welfare for individuals, reinforcing this commitment to every person's inherent worth.
Right. Moving from the broader economic landscape to the individual citizen's well-being and their access to justice, we find several critical directives. These deeply embed human rights and dignity within the constitutional framework. Article 39A, for example, is a cornerstone of true justice. It directs the state to ensure the legal system promotes justice on a basis of equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity in the legal system. What does that mean practically?
Crucially, it specifically mandates the provision of free legal aid by suitable legislation or schemes. The intent here is crystal clear. Opportunities for justice should not be denied to any citizen by reason of economic or other disabilities.
So poverty shouldn't stop you from getting justice.
Exactly. This provision directly addresses the systemic barrier of cost in accessing the legal system. It aims to make justice a right, not a privilege reserved only for those who can afford expensive lawyers.
That truly is a game changer. It means your financial status, your ability to pay, shouldn't determine your access to the courts or the quality of justice you receive.
It's about leveling the playing field.
Ensuring that a lack of funds doesn't prevent someone from seeking redress or defending their rights. It's absolutely essential for a fair society.
Precisely. Then, Article 41 outlines a series of conditional rights. The state, and here's a condition, within the limits of its economic capacity and development.
Okay, so acknowledging reality, resources aren't infinite.
Right. Within those limits, the state is directed to make effective provision for securing rights to work, education, and public assistance. And it specifies certain situations: unemployment, old age, sickness, disablement, and it adds other cases of undeserved want.
Undeserved want. That's interesting phrasing. Covering unforeseen hardships.
Yes. It's a pragmatic acknowledgement of state resources. It's aspirational and dependent on capacity, but it still sets the clear goal for universal welfare provisions. It aims to create a robust social safety net that catches everyone in genuine need. It's a promise of support against life's unpredictable challenges.
So it's setting a high bar for societal support, even if full implementation takes time and depends on the country's prosperity.
Correct. And Article 42 shows a clear, progressive focus on the dignity of labor, particularly, though not exclusively, for women. It directs the state to make provision for securing just and humane conditions of work and for maternity relief.
Maternity relief. That's quite specific and forward-thinking.
Yes, these are remarkably advanced provisions for their time, prioritizing the health and dignity of workers, especially new mothers, recognizing their unique needs and contributions to society and the workforce.
Absolutely. And central to any nation's human development is, of course, education.
Yes. Article 45, as it was originally conceived, mandated the state to endeavor to provide, within 10 years from the Constitution's commencement, which was a very ambitious timeline,
10 years, wow.
free and compulsory education for all children until they complete the age of 14 years. This highlights a fundamental belief in human capital development and societal upliftment as absolutely key to national progress.
Now, I know that article has been amended since, right? Education became a fundamental right for 14-year-olds?
That's correct. The source notes that Article 45 has since been substituted by a later amendment focused on early childhood care for children below 6 years, and the right to education for 14-year-olds was elevated to a fundamental right under Article 21A. But the original intent and the spirit of universal education within the DPSPs remain profoundly important as a foundational directive, showing the state's long-term commitment.
That long-term vision for accessible education for all is undeniably crucial. But it's not just about general education for everyone, is it? There's also a specific focus on vulnerable groups.
Yes, absolutely. Article 46 directs the state to promote with special care the educational and economic interests of the weaker sections of the people, and it explicitly mentions scheduled castes and scheduled tribes.
SCs and STs specifically called out.
Yes, and it further mandates the state to protect them from social injustice and all forms of exploitation. This directly addresses historical and systemic disadvantages. Scheduled castes and scheduled tribes historically faced, and in many areas continue to face, deep-seated discrimination, social exclusion, economic marginalization.
So this isn't just a general statement about helping the poor, it's targeted.
It is. It's a targeted directive emphasizing affirmative action and specific protective measures against exploitation. It acknowledges that some sections of society require deliberate, focused support to achieve true equality and dignity due to centuries of injustice.
Okay. And finally, there's public health.
Yes, Article 47 shows a remarkably holistic approach to public health and welfare. It declares that the primary duty of the state is to raise the level of nutrition and standard of living and improve public health.
Nutrition, standard of living, public health. The basics of well-being.
Exactly. And what's particularly interesting and often debated is its specific endeavor to bring about prohibition of intoxicating drinks and drugs injurious to health.
Prohibition, like alcohol prohibition.
Yes, that's the implication, except for medicinal purposes. This is a fascinating directive. Even including such a controversial measure as prohibition, explicitly framed as a public health goal to protect citizens from harm associated with substance abuse.
That certainly adds another layer.
It does. And this whole section, Articles 39A through 47, it really raises an important question for you, the listener. How does a state effectively balance its constitutional duty to provide these extensive welfare measures, like universal access to work, education, healthcare, justice, with its inherent economic limitations?
Yeah, the reality check from Article 41.
Right. How does it aim for universal coverage while acknowledging those limits? It requires continuous legislative innovation, strategic resource allocation, and a deep commitment from successive governments over decades.
Picture a scenario where a person, regardless of their financial background, has robust legal representation, or where social safety nets are designed to catch everyone in need, ensuring education and health are genuinely accessible to all. How do these principles directly impact the accessibility of education, healthcare, and social support systems in your community right now? They fundamentally shape the very fabric of individual opportunity and protection.
They really do. They set the standard, the aspiration.
And these principles clearly move beyond just individual needs. They embrace the broader community, its heritage, and even the environment. It shows a truly expansive understanding of what the state should be concerned with.
That's right. The DPSPs also look outwards, addressing the collective fabric of society and our crucial relationship with the natural world. Article 40, for instance, is a foundational directive for democratic decentralization, a real bedrock for self-governance. It states that the state is to take steps to organize village panchayats.
Panchayats, the village councils.
Exactly, and endow them with necessary powers and authority to function as units of self-government. This is all about empowering local communities, ensuring that decision-making is brought closer to the people, making them truly the bedrock of democracy and local development, rather than just a top-down approach from the state capital or Delhi.
That's a powerful point. Empowering village-level self-government is a huge fundamental step in ensuring that governance is truly by and for the people. Addressing local needs directly, fostering participation, it's about genuine grassroots democracy.
It is, giving people a say in matters that directly affect their daily lives, like local infrastructure, water management, primary education, local health initiatives.
Okay, then what about Article 48? Agriculture and animal husbandry.
Yes, Article 48 touches on these crucial sectors vital to India's economy and culture. The state is to endeavor to organize these on modern and scientific lines, promoting efficiency and sustainability. And then in particular, it directs the state to take steps for preserving and improving breeds and prohibiting the slaughter of cows and calves and other milch and draft cattle.
The directive on cow slaughter. That's obviously a very significant and sometimes contentious point.
It is. This article shows a fascinating blend of modernization, modern and scientific lines, with deep cultural and economic sensitivities. Cow protection, for example, is a particularly nuanced and significant aspect in the Indian context, tied to religious sentiment for many, but also historically to agricultural utility, as draft animals were essential.
So it reflects multiple dimensions of the issue.
Yes. And the foresight shown in the next article is truly remarkable, especially concerning the environment. Article 48A mandates the state to endeavor to protect and improve the environment and safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country.
And this was included well before environmentalism became the global movement it is today.
Long before. This directive emphasized environmental protection as a fundamental duty towards nature itself, not just a policy option based on immediate economic needs. It's a constitutional commitment to ecological health.
That's incredibly forward-looking, placing environmental stewardship right there as a core constitutional objective.
It really is. It makes it a guiding principle for all state actions, ideally. And Article 49 further highlights the importance of preserving cultural identity and national heritage. It lays down an explicit obligation of the state to protect every monument or place or object of artistic or historic interest that's been declared of national importance.
So protecting historical sites, artifacts.
Exactly. This protection covers everything from spoliation, which means looting or plundering, disfigurement, destruction, removal, disposal, or even export. It stresses the importance of preserving national identity, history, and artistic legacy as a core state obligation, safeguarding our shared past for future generations.
Okay, let's unpack this section. From empowering local villages through panchayats to protecting ancient monuments, promoting scientific agriculture, considering animal welfare, and safeguarding the environment. These principles demonstrate a truly expansive view of what the state is responsible for. For you, the listener, imagine local communities having more direct control over their development initiatives, or national efforts actively funding the protection of forests and historical sites, not just for tourism revenue, but because it's a constitutional imperative. How do these directives fundamentally shape the natural and cultural landscapes you encounter every day? They paint a picture of a state deeply engaged with its heritage and its future.
These articles reflect a comprehensive understanding of what constitutes a well-governed and culturally rich society. They extend the state's responsibility beyond immediate human needs to the environment and historical legacy, recognizing their intrinsic value to national identity and well-being.
Okay. And finally, within the DPSPs, these principles don't just guide internal governance or environmental policy, they also shape the very structure of the state itself and its crucial role on the global stage.
That's right. The DPSPs also contain directives that powerfully shape the very architecture of governance within India and define the nation's position and responsibilities in the global arena. Article 44, for instance, states that the state shall endeavor to secure for the citizens a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India.
The Uniform Civil Code, or UCC, that's a directive that generates a lot of discussion, even today.
Immense discussion. It's a long-term, highly aspirational goal for legal equality across personal laws. The aim is to replace the diverse religious, linguistic, and regional distinctions in personal matters like marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption.
So one law for everyone on these personal matters, regardless of religion or community.
That's the objective. But it's an incredibly complex and often intensely debated directive precisely because it touches on deeply held religious and cultural traditions. It sparks profound discussions about secularism, individual rights versus community rights, gender justice within different personal laws, and the very definition of a unified national identity. It's a vision for legal equality that continues to stir debate.
It certainly speaks to a profound vision of legal equality and national integration, but yet it also highlights the immense challenge in balancing unity with India's incredible diversity.
It absolutely does. And then Article 50 focuses on a fundamental principle of good governance anywhere in the world, the separation of powers. It explicitly directs the state to take steps to separate the judiciary from the executive in the public services of the state.
Keeping the courts independent from the government departments that implement laws or make policy.
Exactly. This is a crucial safeguard for any democracy. It ensures judicial independence and helps prevent executive overreach. For you, the listener, this ideally means the courts operate free from political interference. They can act as an impartial arbiter of justice and a check on governmental power, thereby protecting citizens' rights and upholding the rule of law.
A truly independent judiciary is absolutely essential for a healthy, functioning democracy. No question. It acts as that vital check and balance on the other branches of government, safeguarding individual liberties against potential abuses of power. This directive really solidifies that foundational principle.
It makes it a constitutional mandate for good governance. And finally, Article 51 elevates the nation's aspirations onto the global stage. It demonstrates a clear commitment to international peace and cooperation. It directs the state to endeavor to, and there are several points here. First, promote international peace and security.
A commitment to peace.
Second, maintain just and honorable relations between nations. Third, foster respect for international law and treaty obligations.
For upholding global rules.
Yes, in the dealings of organized peoples with one another. And fourth, encourage settlement of international disputes by arbitration.
So preferring peaceful resolution over conflict.
Exactly. What's truly fascinating here is the forward-looking vision. It not only prescribes internal governance structures like judicial independence, but also defines the ethical framework for the nation's engagement with the global community. It positions India as a responsible global actor committed to peace, justice, and international cooperation, reflecting its values on the world stage.
Imagine a government where the courts operate entirely free from political interference, upholding justice without fear or favor. Or a nation that consistently advocates for the peaceful resolution of global conflicts, actively engaging in international law and arbitration mechanisms.
Mhm.
For you, the listener, how might these principles contribute to a nation's reputation and stability, both internally through strong, independent institutions and internationally through principled foreign policy?
They lay out a framework for principled leadership, both at home and abroad. They project a clear identity for the nation, one that aims to be just, orderly, and committed to global harmony, reflecting its core values and aspirations on the world stage, contributing ideally to global stability and progress.
Okay, we've explored this extensive, really aspirational blueprint for the state, what it should strive for, its vision for the nation as laid out in the DPSPs. Now, let's shift our focus. Let's turn the lens onto you, the citizen, and the responsibilities outlined in your fundamental duties. Because as you said earlier, a nation is truly built by its people. So we've spent a good amount of time detailing what the state should do, its grand vision for the nation laid out in those directive principles. But as you said, a nation isn't built by the government alone, however enlightened or well-intentioned it might be.
No, absolutely not. It's a collective endeavor, a shared responsibility.
Which brings us to Article 51A. This introduces a crucial philosophical shift, doesn't it, from the state's obligations to the citizen's duties.
It really does. Article 51A states that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to fulfill the following responsibilities. And it's worth remembering, this wasn't part of the original constitution drafted in 1950.
Right, it was added later, by amendment.
Yes, in 1976. This highlights a growing recognition, perhaps, of the reciprocal nature of citizenship, that it's not all about rights. If we connect this to the bigger picture, fundamental duties underscore a crucial aspect of what it means to be a citizen, that democracy thrives not just on what citizens demand from their government, but also on what they actively contribute to the nation.
Rights and duties.
Yeah.
Two sides of the same coin.
Very much so. Often. You cannot fully enjoy your rights in a vacuum or in a society that's falling apart because nobody feels any sense of responsibility. A thriving, harmonious society requires both. A government that upholds rights and strives for ideals, like those in the DPSPs, and citizens who fulfill their responsibilities to make that society possible.
That makes profound sense. So for you, the listener, what does this all mean practically? If DPSPs are like the government's constitutional homework, outlining its long-term goals, these fundamental duties are our assignments for building a better nation. Is that fair?
I think that's a very fair way to put it.
They remind us that while the state has responsibilities towards us to provide justice, welfare, opportunity, we also have responsibilities towards the state and, crucially, to each other. How do your everyday actions contribute to the collective good of your community or nation? It's about active participation, not just passive enjoyment of rights.
It's a call to move from being merely a beneficiary of the state to becoming an active contributor to the nation's well-being.
Exactly.
It creates a framework for reciprocal responsibility. It fosters a sense of ownership and collective agency among the populace. It shifts the paradigm from a purely beneficiary model to one of active contribution, emphasizing that true national character is forged through shared endeavor.
Okay, let's get into the specifics then. Let's begin with the foundational duties related to our nation's identity and its core values.
All right. The first two duties listed under Article 51A really set a foundational tone for civic behavior and national allegiance. Duty A calls for citizens to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag, and the national anthem.
Okay, abiding by the Constitution, respecting its ideals, institutions, flag, anthem. Seems straightforward.
It seems straightforward, but it's incredibly significant. It means citizens should not only adhere to the principles and framework of the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, but also show reverence for its ideals. Things like democracy, secularism, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, which are embedded in the preamble and throughout.
So not just the letter of the law, but the spirit too.
Precisely. And respect its democratic institutions like the parliament, the judiciary, state legislatures.
Yeah.
And yes, respect those deeply symbolic national emblems. The national flag and the national anthem. It's about respecting the very foundation of the nation, the rules that govern us, and the symbols that represent our shared identity and unity.
That's a powerful reminder that the Constitution isn't just some dense legal document for lawyers and politicians.
Not at all.
It's meant to be a living guide for all of us. And respecting national symbols like the flag and anthem isn't just a passive observance. It's a visible, active manifestation of civic responsibility and national unity.
It's about embodying the spirit of the nation, expressing a shared commitment to its foundational principles.
Okay. And the second duty, B.
Duty B guides us to cherish and follow the noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom.
Cherish and follow the ideals of the freedom struggle. What kind of ideals are we talking about?
Think of the core values that motivated the fight for India's independence. Ideals like nonviolence, as championed by Gandhi, equality, rejecting colonial hierarchies and caste discrimination, secularism, the idea of respecting all faiths, justice, both social and economic, unity and diversity, bringing together people of different languages, religions, regions.
So it's asking citizens to remember that history and actively live by those values today.
Yes. It connects citizens to the historical journey and those foundational values. It ensures that the sacrifices of the past continuously inform the actions of the present and future. It keeps that moral flame alive, so to speak. But this raises an important question, maybe for you, the listener. How can citizens actively cherish and follow these sometimes quite abstract ideals in an increasingly complex and diverse society?
Yeah, where definitions and interpretations might even vary.
Exactly. It requires constant reflection, dialogue, and trying to apply these principles in daily life, in our interactions, and the choices we make.
So for me, it means actively learning about the Constitution, yes, and standing respectfully for the anthem. But it also means reflecting on those freedom struggle values like fighting for justice or promoting equality, and then actively trying to apply those in my own life, in my community, in how I treat others.
That's a good way to think about it.
These are not just passive observances, but active engagements with our national identity and historical legacy.
These duties emphasize the importance of historical consciousness and a commitment to the foundational principles that define the nation, ensuring that citizens are not merely inhabitants, but active custodians of its ideals, shaping the national character through their actions and choices.
Okay. And these foundational duties, they extend beyond our historical identity to our shared environment and how we conduct ourselves in public life.
That's right. Beyond the abstract ideals and national symbols, the fundamental duties also address very tangible, practical responsibilities. These directly impact our daily lives and the world around us. Duty G, for example, calls upon citizens to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures.
Protect and improve the environment. And compassion for living creatures, that's quite specific.
It is. It's a profoundly important responsibility towards environmental conservation and animal welfare. It explicitly places ecological stewardship on the shoulders of every citizen. And what's crucial here is its direct connection back to the DPSPs we discussed. Remember Article 48A?
Yes, the state's endeavor to protect the environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Duty creates this powerful reciprocal duty. If the state strives to protect the environment, citizens also have an explicit constitutional duty to do their part. It recognizes that environmental health is a shared collective good, not just the government's problem.
Here's where it gets really interesting and personal, I think. Our duties extend beyond just human interactions to a compassionate, responsible relationship with the entire ecosystem. It's about recognizing our place within a larger natural world and making an individual contribution to collective ecological health and animal welfare. Think about it. Participating in a local cleanup drive, conserving water at home, recycling properly, maybe advocating for animal rights or responsible tourism.
All relevant examples.
These are direct manifestations of this duty in everyday life. It's about being a responsible inhabitant of the planet, not just a consumer using up resources.
Absolutely. And then duty focuses on responsible civic behavior within our shared spaces. It asks citizens to safeguard public property and to abjure violence.
Safeguard public property and avoid violence. Seems like basic civic sense.
It should be, yes. But enshrining it as a fundamental duty gives it constitutional weight. These are fundamental tenets of a civil society, ensuring peace, order, and respect for shared resources. This duty directly promotes protecting national assets like public buildings, infrastructure, parks, buses, trains from damage or destruction, whether through neglect or deliberate acts like vandalism during protests.
Right, and abjure violence means.
To renounce or reject violence. It explicitly calls for refraining from violence. It urges citizens to resolve disagreements and express dissent through peaceful, nonviolent means. It reinforces the idea that public property belongs to everyone and its preservation is a collective responsibility. It's about maintaining social harmony and ensuring that shared resources are preserved for all.
So imagine choosing peaceful dialogue over confrontation when you disagree with something, or actively treating public spaces like parks or libraries with the same care you would your own home. These are everyday actions that embody these duties. They highlight that we are all stakeholders in the collective good, the well-being of our environment and public spaces, and that our individual actions or inactions have a direct impact on the quality of life for everyone.
These duties reinforce the idea that individual actions have collective consequences. They foster a sense of shared responsibility for the common good and the sustainability of our environment and infrastructure. There are practical guidelines for how we coexist and build a respectful, functioning society.
Okay. Beyond these external actions and collective care, our duties also encompass something deeper, our intellectual and moral growth. There's a call to cultivate a truly progressive mindset.
Yes, this is perhaps one of the most distinctive and, I think, forward-thinking duties listed. Duty mandates citizens to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform.
Scientific temper, humanism, spirit of inquiry, and reform. That's a powerful combination.
It really is. This is an explicit constitutional call for citizens to actively cultivate a rational, compassionate, and progressive outlook. A powerful directive for societal evolution, really.
Scientific temper. That's a phrase you genuinely don't often see enshrined in a constitution. What does it really mean in this context?
It's not just about being good at science subjects in school. It's about cultivating a broader mindset of rationality, critical thinking, and relying on evidence-based reasoning in everyday life.
So questioning things, looking for proof.
Exactly. It actively encourages you to question, analyze, and seek verifiable truths. It acts as a counter to superstition, blind faith, prejudice, and dogma. It's a call to be an informed, analytical citizen, able to discern fact from fiction, especially in today's world of misinformation.
Absolutely crucial today. And humanism.
Alongside scientific temper is humanism, which emphasizes empathy, compassion, and a focus on human welfare and dignity. This ensures that our rationality is tempered by kindness, concern for others, and a deep respect for the value of every human being. It's about balancing intellect with heart, head with compassion.
Okay, and the third part, spirit of inquiry and reform.
This fosters curiosity. It encourages questioning the status quo, not just accepting things because that's the way they've always been done. It cultivates a desire for continuous improvement and positive change in society. This is about being an active thinking and progressive citizen, not just passively accepting things as they are, but actively seeking ways to make things better.
Through rational inquiry and compassionate action.
Precisely. What's truly fascinating here, and maybe a key insight for our listeners, is the explicit inclusion of intellectual and ethical development as a civic duty. It's not just about obeying laws, it's a constitutional mandate for a nation of critical thinkers, empowering citizens to question, to innovate, and to continuously evolve society beyond dogma and superstition towards rationality and compassion.
That's a profound call to continuous personal and societal evolution.
Yeah.
It's asking a lot, but it sets a very high bar. For you, the listener, imagine actively seeking out multiple sources of information before forming an opinion on a complex issue, or engaging in respectful debate, even with those you fundamentally disagree with, trying to understand their perspective rather than just shouting them down, or supporting initiatives that promote education, critical thinking, and scientific literacy in your community. How can you personally cultivate a scientific temper and spirit of inquiry in your daily life? It's about building a society that thinks critically and acts ethically, making informed decisions that benefit everyone.
It frames intellectual and moral growth not as mere personal pursuits, but as fundamental contributions to the national character and the nation's future. It's about building a society that not only progresses technologically and economically, but also matures intellectually and ethically, constantly striving for a better understanding of itself and the world.
Okay. And finally, these duties seem to culminate in a powerful call for personal and collective striving towards excellence in everything we do.
Yes, our final set of duties powerfully brings together individual effort and collective aspiration. It shows how personal commitment translates directly into national progress. Duty J is a truly inspiring call, I think. It asks citizens to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement.
Strive towards excellence.
Yep.
In all spheres. That's broad.
It is. Individual and collective activity. This duty promotes continuous personal and collective efforts towards progress and excellence. It means that whether you're working in your profession, contributing to your community, pursuing sports or arts, engaging in scientific research, or participating in any collective activity, putting in your best effort, striving for the highest standards.
Is seen as a direct contribution to the nation's overall advancement.
Exactly. It links your personal striving to the nation constantly rising to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. It connects individual excellence to national progress.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. This isn't just about personal success or individual ambition, getting ahead for yourself.
No, the framing is broader.
It's about seeing your individual best, your pursuit of excellence, as a contribution to the nation's collective rise. It's truly inspiring, actually. It connects every citizen's pursuit of excellence, be it in sports, arts, science, business, public service, skilled trades, anything, to the larger national narrative of progress and achievement.
It fosters a sense of shared responsibility for collective success. It urges us all to raise our game, individually and together.
It creates a symbiotic relationship, then, between individual aspiration and national achievement, reinforcing the idea that a nation's strength is ultimately the sum of its citizens' efforts and dedication.
Well put. And then, duty, the final one listed, places a very specific and absolutely fundamental responsibility on parents and guardians. It states it's the duty of who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or, as the case may be, ward between the age of 6 and 14 years.
Right. This links back directly to education, which we saw as both a DPSP goal and now a fundamental right.
Exactly. This duty highlights the foundational importance of education from the family side. It echoes the state's responsibility, but places a direct duty on parents and guardians for children in that specific age group, 6-14. It underlines the shared societal investment in the next generation, making education both a state responsibility to provide the facilities and framework and a fundamental duty for families to ensure their children actually access those opportunities.
It's about building the future, one educated child at a time, with both the state and the family playing their part.
Precisely.
So for you, the listener, think about putting your absolute best effort into your work, whatever it is, knowing that your excellence contributes to the economy and society, or volunteering your skills for a community project, striving for a great outcome, or, if you're a parent or guardian, ensuring the children in your care have access to quality learning and the support they need to thrive. How does your pursuit of personal excellence, your dedication to doing your best, contribute to the broader endeavor and achievement of your community or nation?
These duties, J and K, really coalesce into a vision of a dynamic, forward-looking society, where every citizen is encouraged to be an active participant in achieving national goals, emphasizing both individual accountability for striving for excellence and collective aspiration for the nation to rise higher.
They are the practical manifestation, perhaps, of how a citizenry can actively contribute to fulfilling those grand constitutional ideals we talked about earlier.
Wow.
Okay, that has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into these guiding principles and duties that truly aim to shape a nation. We've journeyed through the directive principles of state policy, which lay out that aspirational blueprint for the state, the vision for a just, equitable, prosperous, and globally responsible nation.
The shoulds for the government.
Exactly, the shoulds. And then we explored the fundamental duties, which articulate the active responsibilities of you, the citizen, in upholding, protecting, and actively advancing that very vision. The shoulds for the people.
And it's clear, isn't it, that the vision for a great nation isn't solely placed on the government's shoulders in this framework. It's explicitly designed as a shared project.
A partnership, almost.
Very much so. These two parts of the Constitution, Part 4 and Part IVA, while distinct in their enforceability, one not directly justiciable in court, the other also generally considered non-justiciable in the same way as fundamental rights.
Right. You can't typically sue someone for not being patriotic enough, for instance.
Generally, no. But despite that difference in direct legal teeth, they are deeply, intricately interconnected. The DPSPs provide the long-term goals for the state. They aim to create the environment, the conditions, where citizens can best fulfill their fundamental duties.
Like, if the state provides education, DPSP, citizens can fulfill their duty to educate their children, an EDI.
Exactly. And conversely, active and responsible citizens, by embracing their duties, like protecting public property, promoting harmony, striving for excellence, contribute directly to the realization of those directive principles. They form a synergistic relationship, a constitutional contract, if you will, between the governors and the governed. It truly captures the spirit of a participatory democracy where everyone has a role.
It's evident now, I think, that there's so much more to a constitution than just its enforceable laws, the must-dos.
Absolutely.
It's also this powerful statement of intent, a moral compass, and a continuous call to action for everyone involved in the nation-building process. It's a living document that requires constant engagement, not just passive acceptance.
Precisely. These parts of the Constitution are living guides. They invite continuous reflection and concerted action from both the government and its people. They ensure that the nation, ideally, evolves purposefully towards its highest ideals, continuously striving for its potential generation after generation.
So let's leave our listeners with this. Consider this provocative thought for yourself. If every state policy genuinely, rigorously pursued the directive principles, really working to implement that blueprint for social, economic, political justice, environmental protection, global peace,
A big if, but imagine it.
and if every citizen sincerely embraced their fundamental duties, actively contributing to civic responsibility, national unity, environmental care, scientific temper, collective excellence, what profound transformations would we witness in society? How might this dynamic blend of ambitious state direction and committed civic engagement reshape the very idea of national character and progress, not just in India, but perhaps as an inspiring model for the entire world? Something to think about. Hashtag outro. That's been an incredibly insightful deep dive into the guiding principles and duties that shape a nation. It's clear there's so much more to a constitution than just its enforceable laws, isn't there? It's truly a testament to a nation's aspirations.
Indeed. These documents are not just historical artifacts. They are living guides, inviting continuous reflection and action from both the government and its people, shaping the trajectory of a nation.
We encourage you, our listeners, to think about these principles and duties in your own context. How do they resonate with your community? What role do you see yourself playing in upholding these ideals and responsibilities?
It's a conversation worth having.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving for that deeper understanding.